Hey guys, welcome back to the Cult Classic Kids show. And today, Xbox did an overview of the Halo Infinite campaign. The overview itself was about 6.5 minutes long and gave us some decent information and gameplay of what's going to be going on in this single player campaign. And I say single player because, well, co op isn't coming until who knows when. Now, we know that Halo Infinite has had a pretty troubled development cycle. Things have not gone to plan at Xbox. I think the question on everyone's mind at this point is, have Xbox fixed Halo Infinite? Like, is it going to be a better game than what was perceived initially? Because what we did see initially wasn't very impressive. I mean, after all, it's really, really hard to bounce back from this of all things. This was like the worst meme on the internet last year. And given I was okay with what they showed off, I wasn't blown away by any means, but to me, for the most part, how it looked overall, I was like, it's alright. But I never really had high expectations for Halo to begin with because the campaign in Halo 5 was just really lackluster and boring. I mean, to be honest with you, when I was playing through it, halfway through, I realized I just didn't care, so I put on my Sony headsets and I was listening to music until I got to the ending. And if not for that, I would have just dropped the campaign entirely because I was just so egregiously bored and I didn't have anyone to play the campaign with. So, unfortunately, the fun of added friends to a potentially co op experience just didn't work out for me. Now, when it comes to the new campaign overview, honestly, the visuals are really crisp from what I've seen so far. And I'm talking from both a cutscene and gameplay perspective. Overall, the visuals seem pretty solid, and we're looking at an open world game here, so definitely looks good. Now, is this cutting edge graphics? Now, is this the next generation visuals that we were looking for and basically being the top tier visuals? I can't honestly say yes. It doesn't look that good, but it looks good enough for people to complain that the game doesn't look like top tier. Honestly, you're being a little extra. I think the game looks pretty solid for what it is, but it should be noted that it isn't the best looking game ever. Overall, I'm not a big graphics person in general. To me, gameplay performance and story, I think I put before graphics. But when you compare how Halo Infinite originally looked, how horrible it did look, versus how it looks now, it definitely looks far more crisp, far more polished. Overall, visuals have definitely gotten a nice thumbs up for me. Now, when it comes to this open world, I really get the feeling that this sense of adventure that they're trying to give us is kind of inspired by Zelda Breath of the Wild, which honestly I think is a great thing to aim for because the sense of adventure that Breath of the Wild gave me is something I hadn't felt since I played Elder Scrolls Oblivion, in all honesty. Whether they do actually hit that level, I'm not too sure, but looking at the map, it kind of gave me Breath of the Wild vibes, strangely enough. And it seems like generally the story of this game seems to be alluding that the Spartans themselves are at an all time low and that humanity has to fight back with Master Chief, and the only person that can really turn the tide is Master Chief himself. Master Chief has to rescue this AI that is codenamed the Weapon, and she seems to be quite an interesting character. And honestly, if this is shit that came from Halo 5, like I said, I paid no attention to Halo 5, I just beat it because it wasn't even remotely interesting. So this AI was supposed to lock down Cortana, and now Master Chief wants to find Cortana and see what happened to her. This AI that is the Weapon does have a relatively charming personality. She's kind of one of those people that had a job but doesn't really know anything that's going on, and it seems like Master Chief has to get her up to speed with what's going on. Master Chief is fighting this enemy called the Banished, and they seem to definitely be giving him a run for his money. There's a bunch of them, and some of these fights that you get involved in where Master Chief is landing and fighting a whole horde of these bastards, I mean, it does look pretty fun. And even the boss battles that we see are pretty fun overall. Like, I'm really intrigued and I really do want to check it out. But my concern is the time between main missions and your exploration. Will it feel rewarding? Will this open world get boring after a short period of time unless you're doing main missions? Will side missions be even remotely interesting and add to the story overall? Those are key things that I want to know. Judging 343 by their previous Halo entries, their stories are kind of shoddy. Like, people seem to like Halo 4's story. However, Halo 5 just really isn't interesting. So, when you're involved in making an open world game, can you keep people interested with what's going on? I would like to hope that they can, but I'm a little bit like, I'm not too sure. Overall, I'm not really that interested in this campaign. I'll probably play it since it's on Games Pass. But man, if I had to pay $60 for this, I would definitely not be very interested. It's hard to really justify a $60 price tag just for the story. And some people may say, oh, well, they're giving you the multiplayer for free, so why are you complaining? Yes, the multiplayer is free, but what's offered here is a $60 game. Will it be convincingly $60? That is a question. Make no mistake about it, Xbox is pulling a move here. The previous Halo games that have been on 360 and even on Xbox One offered both a single player and multiplayer experience at the price of $60. Now they're saying that just the single player alone is worth $60. That is something that should be spoken about, and I think that Games Pass will alleviate this discussion, which I don't think is very good. But getting back to some positives, I think that this game really did work on its lighting and also the shadows. I think the shadows in this game really make the game look so much more polished. I'm interested to see if the exploration will be compelling or not, but I do think that the gameplay loop could be pretty interesting. I mean, we're seeing Master Chief do all this shit with his grapple hook. The weapons that he's using are a bunch varied and they look pretty fun to use overall. We've used some of them in the multiplayer betas that they've had. Watching him traverse the map itself using different vehicles all seem to add up to possibly this gameplay loop being pretty fun. The enemies involved do give me a little bit of Destiny vibes, but they seem to be a varied amount of different enemies that you're dealing with, so that'll definitely mix things up as well. What we're seeing here, I can confidently say, is a positive. They came from such a low last year, and they vowed to work on this game to make it better, and they definitely achieved that. So far, the game looks like it could definitely be very fun. But how long is this $60 single player experience? Will it be engaging? Those are things that are left to be said. Halo Infinite drops December 8th of this year. I have my Xbox Series X, so that's where I'll be playing it on. Let me know what you guys are going to be playing the game on or if you're remotely interested. I do think, strangely enough, people who do have an Xbox Series X will have the better experience overall, and I'm comparing that to both the Xbox Series S and as well as PC, unfortunately, because from what we've seen, PC, this game is looking sus. I hope that they're able to correct what they need to correct, or at least the game is more playable than it was during the beta. Another thing too is no co-op at launch. There are easily two other people I could have played this game with so that it could feel like, we're having this experience together. But I'm wondering who eventually like the second person is going to be because obviously you can't have two Master Chiefs in the game. But that's kind of an interesting question. Really is a bomb that there is no co-op at launch. I'm sure it disappoints a lot of people who are interested in this campaign because just an okay campaign with co-op can make the campaign feel pretty good. And they also announced that there's no ray tracing at launch. Obviously, I think the lighting in the game is pretty solid despite having no ray tracing, but that's also a bit of a negative as well. Personally, I'm the most interested in the multiplayer. I played the beta with my friends and we were having such a great time. But yeah, guys, that's my overall thoughts on this overview of the Halo Infinite campaign. If you can, like this video, share this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me over on Twitter if you want to continue the conversation. The link is in the description. And with all that being said, guys, I'm out. Peace.